Hey, kia ora, shmai, g'day, howdy, wherever you're tuning in from, welcome. And welcome to the latest episode of the Be Better podcast. I hope you are doing well in podcast world. It's been a manic couple of weeks here at Grow Good Towers. You'll be tuning in possibly a few months after the event, but last week we recorded the 2-day Be Better virtual summit. So 2 days of B Corp goodness. And I've just got back off emceeing a conference yesterday, which was a massive day out, but full of energy, full of fun, and full of excitement. So shout out to Matt Jones and his Safety Summit 25, all about health and safety. Actually kind of interesting, the amount of crossover between health and safety and like sustainability, business for good and impact, and how we can get how we can influence companies to do more good. And ultimately it all comes back to looking after people. Which is quite purposeful. So it was quite an exciting day. But anyway, enough about what's been going on with me. We are here for another episode of the Be Better podcast. And with me today, let me just organize there we go. Look at that. I'm still getting used to this StreamYard platform. We'll get there eventually. There's all these loads of buttons that I can click, and I'm always scared I'm going to click the wrong ones, but I've clicked the right one. A big welcome, kia ora, g'day, shmai, to Frances Blundell from KMD Brands. How's it going?
Kia ora, good morning.
And you're not actually the beautiful mountain range that you have behind you. For those tuning in using their eyes, where's that mountain range behind you?
This is a brand new background actually, so I'm not sure on this image. It looks nice to me, it's definitely South Island.
Possibly Wanaka, maybe, or maybe
I can see some lakeside.
Yeah, Queenstown. We'll go with that. But it's a beautiful background. If you're not watching this on video, then sucks to be you. But thank you so much, Frances. I've had like a double week of KMD because last week we had Shasta, your amazing sustainability lead. She was on the Be Better Virtual Summit. So I was like back-to-back KMD Brands. I feel like I'm getting all over Kathmandu, which is pretty cool.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So for people who don't know who you are and what you do, who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name's Frances Blundell. So I was born here in Otahi and have lived here most of my life, apart from some travelling stints and OE overseas. So this is my home. I'm the company secretary as well as chief legal and ESG officer for B Corp certified KMD Brands. So we own the iconic outdoor brands Kathmandu, Rip Curl and Oboz.
Wow. So you're slightly busy on the day-to-day, I'd imagine.
There is a lot to stay across, but I'm lucky enough to have some amazing teams that I'm leading that help us deliver on all the work.
Nice. So you've got like 3 roles. So what exactly does a company's secretary do? Because we should also mention KMD Brands is a listed company. Yes. So there's possibly some stuff that you do that many of our listeners will not have to do, but I'm like curious. So first of all, what does a company secretary do? And then what does chief legal and ESG officer do? And I guess, is there an overlap between those 2 roles or not?
Yes, I mean, really my whole universe is about governance, which is where it links in really well to ESG. ASX and NZX listed for KMD Brands. So we are a New Zealand parent company, but we are listed on both exchanges and have been since 2009. So the group has been a listed group for quite some time. That brings complexity as a B Corp group for sure. So my role is often board meetings as well as market disclosures, regulatory reporting, and the policy side of things, and which feeds in well with legal and ESG. There are many crossovers.
Policy-arama, I would imagine, in your world. I guess it doesn't, unless there's a policy, it doesn't happen. It's probably the policy, is it? Yeah. And so chief legal and ESG officer, is that a common kind of dual role that you're seeing out there?
No, I would say I feel my role is fairly unique. There aren't many businesses that sort of have combined the roles in this way, but more and more over time, it sort of makes sense. there is a lot of things where legal is trying to think about helping the business make the best decisions, and a lot of the time that's what ESG is about.
And I guess, yeah, so but maybe driven, do you feel, because I mean, when it comes to people looking at B Corp certification or just doing more good in general, like looking at the impact and performance of the business, there is increasing regulatory pressure, and you guys sell and operate in a global marketplace. So I imagine keeping up to date with the rules and regulations in each jurisdiction that you might sell a jacket or a tent in is a full-time job in and of itself. So you've got, so yeah, do you feel, is your role mainly about regulatory, compliance, or is it kind of pushing the boundaries about what could be, or is it a bit of both?
It's definitely a bit of both. It certainly as a listed entity, we've got a lot of scrutiny and have to make sure that we are complying with those regulatory requirements. So we have a lot of focus on that. We still need to help our businesses, our brands move with agility and make quick decisions. So it's a constant balancing act. The ESG lens is definitely about not just reporting. It's about impact initiatives that help us actually have more positive impact. It is a very challenging space at times, but definitely our work plan is trying to keep that balance where we are both getting the regulatory reporting done, because transparency is important to actually demonstrate what we're doing, what we're focusing on and why, but making sure that we have time and resource and budget available for initiatives that actually push us forward. It's a very fine balance at times, but it's one that we strive hard to keep.
Yeah, I can barely imagine what the stress and tensions must be like in a public, because if you make a wrong decision, it's at scale, and so I guess any wrong or bad decisions can sort of what sort of look like, they will roll quite quickly, possibly, rather than if I'm as a small business, if I put the wrong social media post out, or I have my policy isn't as good as it could be, the zone of impact is maybe not as big as if you guys get something wrong.
Yeah, I think there's some that fairness in that. There's also you don't want our brands to be so risk averse that they don't explore and challenge and take some risk. So risk also sits in my portfolio, and very much trying to make sure that we are just having a well-intentioned decision making, so that we're making sure we've considered all factors and really thought about the consequences. Yes, little things can turn into big things, so trying to help people understand the wider frame. It's an interesting space for sure, but the B Corp sort of leans on thinking about long-term consequence, thinking about all the people that may be impacted. It really fits well with actually what we're trying to achieve.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, I'm just off the back of yesterday emceeing a health and safety conference. So that this kind of you're almost like the perfect guest to talk to today, because that's exactly what health and safety is about. We need to push the boundaries of the company. We need to, or a company might be wanting to innovate and do more things, but we also have to estimate what the risk is to that. But as I sort of said at one point, there's risk in anything you do, but also not doing anything has risk. And so it's not like you can just sit there and do nothing and go, well, we're at no risk. It's like, well, no, that also has a risk. So
your risk is you won't have a business for long.
Yeah, if you're not innovating and trying to stay ahead. And how do you find, there's a few questions going around my head on the back of that. So I guess for people who may not know as much about B Corp, which is partly who we're trying to reach in this podcast, is people who might be curious about B Corp and are kind of like, well, how does it all work and what does it mean and what are some examples? To become a B Corp, pretty much, I think it's in every jurisdiction of the world now. You need to be willing and able to update your company's incorporation or articles of incorporation or constitution, whatever it's called in your jurisdiction. that, which basically states there's a purpose clause in the stakeholder. You probably know them verbatim more than I do. The purpose clause is essentially, yes, whilst aiming to make a profit, this company will also act in the long-term interests of, having a higher purpose and aiming to do good. And the stakeholder clause essentially says, the shareholders, directors, officers of this company will at all times consider the impact of their operations on more than just making money. It's also to consider their community, their workers, the environment, their supply chain, the long-term interests of the company, etc., etc. You are the only ASX NZX listed B Corp that I'm aware of. Synlait as well.
Yes.
Yeah, there's two of you. Yeah. So it's not very normal. What was were you sort of involved with that constitution change?
Yes, that was definitely what I spent a lot of the last few years working towards. So we put this up to our shareholders at our shareholders meeting. We did that last year or the year before. So we had to go through quite a process of discussion. It's a big deal to amend a constitution. It took a lot of discussion amongst our board to get comfortable with making this change, and was it the right thing for the group? What does it mean in terms of corporate governance practices? So it definitely was a conversation that was had over a period of time, because this change, was communicated that this was something that needed to be achieved by a certain time. We had plenty of time to build into it. We then needed to communicate to our shareholders about why this was important and what it meant. And what was really great is we had really high support for the resolution to amend the constitution and embed these clauses in our key governing document. But to know that that's what our shareholders want and expect of us, that's the way they want business decisions to be made, that this is actually just good business practice, considering the long-term consequences, considering the stakeholders that you're impacting, considering the obvious needs of shareholders, but that these things are all aligned to long-term value, long-term growth and profitability. That's what we're here for, and to have really strong support for embedding that change was great. So it's a different way of thinking. It's a different step, and it's because it's out of the ordinary. Yeah, it feels a bit scary. So it took everyone time to just get comfortable with it and really to think about what does that mean internally in terms of our processes, to make sure it's fully embedded across every aspect of our business.
Obviously, without naming names or going into details of board meetings, although I guess being a listed company, you might have to publish those anyway. I don't know. But what was, for people who had a sense of trepidation, or were like, hey, right, hang on a minute, because it's very common for me. I haven't got any listed companies that I'm working with currently. I've got a couple of fairly big companies though that have got decent sized boards with global input and representation, and it's not uncommon. And even medium-sized businesses that might have a board, it's not uncommon that the CEO is like, yep, I want to do B Corp, and then they have to go and present it to the board, and there's typically an 80-20 split where 80% are kind of like, yep, I don't see that there's anything too concerning with this constitution change, but there's 20% who are like, whoa, like, hang on a minute, like, what is the risk? Like, does this mean we can be sued? Or, what happens if we do, like the example I use would be, let's say you've got a call center, and, you're looking, you need to, obviously you want to make as much profit as possible if you're a business, possibly. And you kind of, the future casting would be, okay, so we get to a point where profit's really down, or we're looking down the barrel of really poor return over the next quarter, and we decide, we want to get rid of our customer service team or whatever. Like, would we be struck off being a B Corp, or would we be sued for doing that? It's like, well, my understanding, hopefully you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, being a lawyer. My understanding is like, no. But you would really need to demonstrate that you'd considered what the impact would be of getting rid of that customer service team to your customers, to them, to their community. And so really, it's not saying you can't make the for-profit decision, ultimately. It's just asking you to have considered the impact of all of that when you have made that decision. And so when I typically explain it to people, they're kind of like, oh, okay, right, I feel a bit more at ease. But yeah, what were the sort of the areas of concern for your organizations?
Look, it is exactly as you summarize. There was a lot of strong support for continuing with what is a fundamental piece of who we are as a group. KMD Brands is a group of brands who, the outdoors is essential to our products and our customers. We inspire and want to get people outdoors and loving their time in the outdoors, and that's what we're here for. And therefore, being a B Corp is something that just aligns so well with that. So there's a lot of support for what it delivers and what it means to who we are as a group. Absolutely, we have different viewpoints within the different layers of governance within our organisation that are asking the right questions, because you've got to think about all the consequences before you make a decision like changing your constitution. It would be, it wouldn't be fair if you just rolled ahead without questioning about whether this is the right thing to do. And does it open you up to new risks? Shareholder activism, it is there. The job of a director is incredibly challenging. There are so many things that they have to, keep across and keep in their frame of mind when they're making decisions. So it is right to go through that exercise, and we had really good debate, and that's why it sort of ends up having so much more meaning, because we're all collectively on the same page with what the benefits that it delivers, and how we control the risks that, if there are any that are created from this process, what are we going to do about them to make sure that they're minimized? And that's really coming back to our internal processes to make sure that this stakeholder consideration is embedded at every layer. It's not just something that's on a piece of paper, it's actually happening and ingrained in how decision making happens. I think it's interesting you talked about the balancing profit and purpose, and the way I think about it is these aren't things that sit at opposite ends of a scale. It's not about making a purpose decision or making a profit decision. Considering all your stakeholders, considering long-term consequences of a decision is just good governance and responsible business practice. It's not actually a huge departure from how businesses are actually operating. They just don't really realize that they are. They don't think about it in a way of course I'm going to think about the long-term impacts, because I want to be profitable long-term.
I want the business to be here for ages,
exactly.
not a year. Yeah.
And yes, you consider all the stakeholders, and yes, there'll be trade-offs. And there's no, you must make a decision in a certain way. It's just about making sure you've turned your mind to all the factors and made the best decision overall.
Nice. And I think, I've mentioned this a few times on recent episodes. It really only feels that since the 1950s, this idea of just shareholder profit maximization has even been an idea. Before that, businesses were built quite often with an intergenerational and a community lens on them. Like if you look back in medieval times, you had the guilds, you had the master trades, where it would be Blundell and sons or daughters. It's like we are third generation merchants, and it's in our interest that we have a good business that is upstanding and of moral, relative moral standing. Obviously environmental laws possibly quite lacking in medieval England, but in general it's like we need to be an upstanding member of society, otherwise we're not going to have a business. And there typically was that more intergenerational lens, and particularly in sort of Te Ao Māori belief systems, other cultures. I mean, there's a company, Trinio, who just around the corner from you guys, well, they used to be, they were a fairly early adopter on B Corp, and one of their co-founders, whose name escapes me off the top of my head, but he's of Indian descent. And when they were looking at the B Corp process, I think he talked to it was a brother or a cousin who still lives in India, and he said, like our company, the the minimum length business plan we have is a 100-year plan. Whereas working in a tech company, he's like, we're working on a 6-week sprint as to what, what dev we're working on this 6 weeks. We don't think further than a year. And he said that that was a real moment for him of like, well, okay, yeah, actually we do need to just sit back. And I guess in this modern digital AI connected world of 3-second clips on Instagram or whatever, and it's like go now. And yeah, hopefully B Corp can be a force for that, to make people just, look at the beautiful mountains and, work out, hey, hang on a minute, actually, what is this all about? Shareholder activism, that's a really interesting thing, which again, I guess a lot of people, I don't know, maybe some people are involved in it. It's a really in some ways, like, if you think what you're being activistic about is a good thing, I guess you think it's a good thing. But as a company, because there's been some cases in the US recently where companies have had shareholder activism against maybe ESG type things, because big groups have got together and said, actually, no, we don't think you should be focusing on that. We just want you to make money. So it's an interesting area, and I guess we all think that we're going to be on the right side of history, but not everyone is. So how do you handle any shareholder activism? I guess if it supports what you're trying to do, fantastic. But if there's something that you might want to implement that the shareholders go, actually, no, we're going to create a big group here and we're going to vote against it. Like, it's an interesting tension. I feel like, is there anything around that for you?
Well, like, it is an interesting tension, because we have a responsibility to our shareholders. We're here because of them. They we have a duty to safeguard their investment in us, and I think making sure that our strategy is aligned with that long-term profitability is in their interests. So that is certainly the way that our strategy and our program of work in this plan is focused, and we're very open about that. That is what we are about. We are about long-term value, not a short-term return. Has been very, very difficult times in many recent years, so that's hard. But we've got some really amazing, long-standing shareholders who continue to support us, because to them, the values and the way that we're committed to doing business is where they want to invest their money. So I think it's shareholders, absolutely, it's their right to invest where they choose, and if they've got a voice, and their voice deserves to be heard, if they've got a perspective that they think a company needs to take into account. But it's not an easy space at times, for sure. But we're not hiding what we're about.
Yeah, totally. Do you do like stakeholder engagement with the share group to sort of check on the vibe, and so you can kind of get a sense of, okay, hey, look, we think we might need to have a policy on this now, because we're getting, so you can kind of, rather than, because it felt like I think it was like Harley Davidson in the US, there was like they were a lot of their core, it's almost like the Bud Light thing, a bunch of their core supporters felt that they were getting too woke. And it's like, fundamentally, we're middle-aged guys who like to hang out and ride motorbikes. That's the 98% demographic that you're targeting, and we think you're going too far on a bunch of stuff that we don't agree with. And so they formed a big shareholder group, I understand, and they basically said, no, we're going to vote against all this stuff. So you kind of felt like it felt like the company didn't see that coming. So maybe they need your expert legal advice. So that's interesting to hear that, you do kind of take a bit of a temperature gauge on where's everyone at, to avoid that kind of like, we didn't see this coming.
I think that's super important. We do a materiality assessment every second year. We're just about to roll one out for the current period, where we check in with our key stakeholders about what issues matter most to them, what they think our business needs to focus on, and get that sort of read on priority, so that our strategy is informed by that. We always learn a lot through that process, and really take on board the value we get out of that from hearing stakeholder voices. And we try and make that a wide lens, not just of shareholders, but listening to customers, listening to community groups, listening to our supply chain, listening to our employees, because they're all important to our business success.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really important process that businesses need to do to make sure that they are hearing from the people who actually care about what the business sort of stands for and focuses on.
Yeah. It's typically, the sort of the typical client that I'd be working with, like I said, that sort of medium-ish to slightly bigger. Materiality is typically something they've not come across, and it really is foundational to understanding your place in your mini universe of your stakeholders. And it's really interesting watching people who then go and do it. It's like, well, my advice would be go and do one, and I can help you, work out a basic one to get you in the game. It's kind of like, it's really cool. You sort of see the aha moment. It's like, so, you've got all these initiatives that you could implement through the B Corp journey. Which ones do people actually care about? Because you might go down this massive path of investing a ton of money and resource and operational expense, and then you tell your customers and they go, really don't care. And your team just go, well, that didn't really vibe with us either, and we've now got no budget to do any marketing because we've just bought this new machine or whatever it is. And it's like, well, if you just asked a few people, you would have actually just done this marketing campaign instead, and for a third of the cost or whatever it is. So it really is important to understand that, and like you say, keep that as an ongoing basis because things change, and you're so focused on what you're doing, you need to pop up for air every now and then and go, well, hang on a minute, what's actually happening in the wide world?
And the wider world is changing so rapidly on us as well. So you've got to keep a temperature gauge on that.
Yeah. Do you get because I know when you go to store, I don't know if you're still doing it, but you used to have like little surveys on the FPOS machines. Is that where do you connect materiality to that level? Or is
we have in the past, but we have just decided to move away from those because I think they do disrupt the customer journey somewhat. So we're actually
fine line though, isn't it?
It is. We do brand health surveys, focus groups. In a more qualitative and quantitative way. So, which gives more meaning, depth to the data as well. So there's lots of opportunities to hear from customers. But yes, we've certainly trialed a bit of everything.
Nice. I think you have to, don't you? Because it's like you don't know what's going to work until you try it. Fundamentally, So you definitely. You've got a big job. I do not envy your job. I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing. I will. That is for sure.
It's exciting. I'm really grateful for the role I get to do because I get to represent our three really amazing brands and help be part of a conversation of how we can keep making our business better. It's a great motivation to come to work every day.
I reckon. So for people who maybe don't know, and it's always interesting, particularly in the food and beverage and retail space, you might see a brand on the supermarket shelf, or you see a brand in a shop. And I only really realized this. I did a piece of work for, it's now called Kogo, but it was called Conscious Consumers. And so part of my job was reaching out to conscious brands to sort of say, hey, would you like to be on this platform? And it was really interesting. Like, you see a coffee brand in the supermarket, and then you work out that actually it's owned by this other brand, and they also own 7 out of 10 of the other coffee brands. And it's like this wacky world of retail and food and beverage. So for people who don't know, KMD Brands, like you said, it's Kathmandu, Rip Curl, and what's the shoe brand again?
Oboz.
I keep wanting to call it Oboz, which is a different shoe brand, but it's quite a similar name, so apologies for that. What was it like? Because obviously Kathmandu was the initial B Corp brand. The other two weren't B Corp, were they? When you
that's right. Yes.
So what was that like? It's like kind of worm here. Like, hey guys, just like, I'm guessing there was a bit of due diligence, maybe.
Yes, certainly was part of it. So Kathmandu was definitely the trailblazer. 2019 is when Kathmandu first certified as B Corp. My role at that stage was I was legal counsel. Didn't have ESG on my radar. I was more the transactional side of processes. We moved to acquire Oboz in 2018, which is our Bozeman, Montana-based footwear brand in America, Yellowstone country, hike brand and growing strongly. We then, in 2019, had Rip Curl join the family. So that was really transformative for the group, because Rip Curl is huge and global, complex business, with wholesale, retail, license model, distribution networks. It was quite a change for the group. And that's really where my role was created. I went from being responsible for legal to, we need someone to think about ESG strategy across all of our brands. Kathmandu's always been doing a lot of really great stuff, which is culminated in its B Corp certification. But how do we now get these new members to our family, also to B Corp? I think for Rip Curl had sort of thought about or looked at B Corp in the years prior to joining the group, but thought, it's a daunting task. But what was really beneficial was post acquisition and the group coming together to really form into what is now known as KMD Brands. We could use and leverage the knowledge and the skill that we had from the Kathmandu team and the already great things that we had done to achieve B Corp certification to help Oboz and Rip Curl get there. It was a really big job. It was a lot to do, but we were able to do it because of the combined sort of force of bringing the brands together. We also certified On Smooth, which is our wetsuit manufacturing facility in Thailand, which we own. So it has its own certification as well. So it's a big job to do 4 separate impact assessments and get certified 4 times. But that was really awesome to have achieved that for the group. And it really brought our people together with a lot of common purpose, especially in those post-COVID times where things were really tough. When the world was just sort of trying to get back started, and we had a lot of supply chain disruption, and it was pretty hard going. It really brought a lot of positivity to the team.
Nice. Yeah, it's like it's like Napoleon when you're fighting a battle on 2 fronts. Like you're fighting in Russia and Spain. It's like you're kind of like you've got supply chain, you own manufacturing, global distribution and sales, and retail. It's like literally, other than owning your own rubber plantation, I suppose there's not much more you could add to the mix in terms of like
complexity. Yes.
So maybe someone in the team's going, "Hey, that's a really good idea. We could actually make our own rubber."
No, don't.
He's like, no, it's not. Right, I'll edit this bit out for you. So there's complexity. So yeah, you clearly have a very interesting job, and multiple time zones as well. Like, are you stretched, or like I say, you've got a team as well, but if you got, is there still a team in Bozeman making the shoes?
Oboz is based in Bozeman. The office there has around 40 people in it. That's where all the shoes are designed.
Yeah.
And we have global teams in California and an office in France for the group that's driving all 3 of our brands into the European markets. So there's a lot of global presence. Yes, it does bring some time zone and challenges and some calls at not so friendly hours at times, but with tools and sharing ability now, it's all very achievable.
Manageable. Yeah. If you need some kind of like B Corp news person to go around your entities and just say B Corp, this is amazing. I'm more than all the locations you've mentioned. I'd be more than happy to go to all of them. So if we can maybe have a chat. There's got to be something I could do for you guys. Just talking B Corp every day in your offices. Because they all sound very cool. Whereabouts in France? I quite like France.
In Hossegor.
Whereabouts is that?
So, right down the coast, almost on the way to Spain. So it is beautiful. Obviously, surfing right on the doorstep of the office, because
Nice.
that's what our people are about. They are
Nice.
the testers for our brand's products, and they
Nice.
get out and use them and make them the best they can be.
Fantastic. And then a cheeky trip into the Pyrenees for ski in the winter. Everyone's a winner. I'm sold. Like, I mean, just let me know when I can start. I'm happy. We can work out some arrangement. So how combining all these companies, different global jurisdictions, therefore different local regulations, like where did you start? It's like I'm just imagining the policies and procedures. I've worked with a few companies that have global entities, and it's stressful, just with one company where, hey, what's our workplace policy around holiday, like even just national legislation. Like the US has very little holiday and parental leave entitlement. New Zealand has, I think, its second best parental leave behind Scandinavia. So automatically it's like, how do we approach this? Do we give everyone the best, or do we just keep it as it is? So yeah, just talk us through what it was like reviewing all the policies at that level, and what did you do?
Yes, and it's always a constant work in progress. So I by no means claim to have everything sorted. There's always something more that you need to learn, look at, be aware of, particularly in the regulatory space, because it's constantly evolving, as we can see with the legislation coming out of the EU. Trying to keep up with what is going to be required of us into the future years so that our business is prepared is definitely one of our key challenges. And when I started with the Kathmandu brand, and it was a greenfields role. So it was very much start from scratch in terms of building processes and systems to help keep track of what we're doing, what we need to do. And it's sort of built on that over many, many years. We have key connections in each of our regions from an advisory point of view that we do rely on to help keep us informed about what's going on. I just try and make sure that I've got the right sorts of newsletters coming into the inbox. There's always so many of them. But if you can just find one or two that are actually going to be reliable, and making sure that you're keeping up. But because we have the regional offices, we also have representatives who are on the ground and connected to their local jurisdiction, who we build those networks to share. So we've had working groups involving our product specialists sitting in Torquay, where Rip Curl is based, in Christchurch for Kathmandu. We've got representatives sitting in our Hossegor, France office. We have representatives in our Asian supply chain, our Thai wetsuit factory, and then into the US. So we bring those experts together and make sure that they're sharing knowledge, and that for the benefit of all of our brands, because sometimes someone within a brand will learn something, or they're across something, and we just want to build those networks to make sure that information is shared for the benefit of all, and it's working well.
Nice. And when it comes to like specific things, like this one company I've been working with as an example, so they've got employees in New Zealand and in the US and in the UK. So like parental leave is the classic example. New Zealand, we have like massive amounts of parental leave. It's all paid for by the government. The US basically has nothing, and the UK is a bit less than New Zealand. So the decision there is, okay, well, can we, because then it becomes a cost implication. If we're going to pay the same level of parental leave that the government is going to pay here for an employee in America, that's looking at 6 months basically paid maternity leave. Is there like a decision making matrix that you have for stuff like that, or is it like on a case by case basis of, okay, well, let's look at all because like I say, just going through the B Corp policies in my head that I can imagine that you have, it's like, okay, so what is the benchmark in each jurisdiction? Is there a desire? Like how is there a methodology, or is it literally you just see what it and then like you say, also you might go, well, hang on a minute, we've got wind that there's legislation coming in France to change the parental leave policies coming in 2027. So do we leave it for now? Like, how do you manage all of that?
It is a real challenge, particularly back to the B Corp assessment piece, is something we've found challenging as we've gone through the process, and twice for Kathmandu, once for Oboz and for Rip Curl, and that we've got policies that may apply regionally or to one brand, but bringing them to a level that they apply across all brands and all regions is incredibly hard, and not always the right business decision because of, as you mentioned, the cost impacts, which does make it challenging to get the sort of B Corp assessment points that we think really reflects our business practices. So because often you have to hit a threshold, we might have a really great policy in Australia and New Zealand, but because it's not global, we've definitely not had the points recognition for that. But again, it just shows us where the opportunities are to keep improving the score. So it helps build that roadmap of what's next. Nice. We are doing a global benefits review at the moment, just to make sure that we're actually looking across all employees, all regions, and understanding exactly what applies in each region. But it's taken time and systems to have access to that information. We've got 3 very different brands that have come from very different origins, and it takes time to bring them together and actually work through some of these things. But that's what I love about the B Corp assessment process, because it actually helps you build that pathway for, well, what shall I aim for next? What does good look like? What's the next step for me?
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I like it. It's a great framework. Like if you're, because I think a lot of people go, oh, B Corp, like, oh my gosh, like Kathmandu is a B Corp, Patagonia is a B Corp, or who have these big brands, that have got massive resource, and we're never going to be as good as them. But if you're not sure where to start, it's just a great framework to start. And like you say, just start at kind of question 1 and have a look at where you're at. And a lot of companies are actually quite shocked when they go, oh, we're actually way closer to the standard than we ever thought we would be. If you're coming from that place of that mindset and intent of, well, we're kind of trying to do good from day one.
And every little bit counts. Like for a big business, we don't have huge resource. We might look like we do, but also it's a lot harder to change. So a small business can implement something. Exactly, it's like redirecting a very large ship. So a small business can make those changes much more effectively, efficiently, and really move forward. Yes, then they probably are struggling with the resource question of who's going to do the work. So every business has its own challenge. It's not easy for anyone, and it's not meant to be.
Totally. Yeah, most small businesses, it's typically like the owner who's like, okay, this is going to be on me. Medium-sized businesses, it's normally like every company has got that one person who's really good at getting shit done, and it's normally that person who gets given B Corp. So it's typically ops, finance, HR, or marketing, who've got that really amazing person who just eats projects, and they're normally like, hey Francis, hey, I know you're kind of doing chief legal, but could we also give you this B Corp thing? That's the common which is why I'm normally brought in to help, because it's like the boss has asked me to do B Corp, and I don't know. So it's like, cool, I can probably help you. The materiality, I think that's a really key thing, and it's something that I say to all companies I work with. It's like, you might, particularly going through the workers section, you might go, oh yeah, we could offer health insurance, or we could offer gym membership, or maybe we need to do unlimited leave or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, you could do any or all of those, but actually, what do your team want? Because if you've got a particularly, I sort of give the example, if you've got a mainly younger team in their early 20s, health insurance probably isn't on their radar, but an extra 2 weeks holiday probably is. Whereas if you've got a group of people who might be thinking about having kids, or they're, slightly older, they might go, actually, do you know what? Some health insurance, I'd take that right now, because I'm aging, and actually that would be really useful for me. And I think it's really cool that you're doing that, because the risk is you do a blanket, hey everyone, you've now got health insurance, and half the company go, didn't want it. Could I have the cash instead, or whatever? So I think it's really, really key that you understand what people need and where the gaps are, and respond to it. Yeah, rather than just like, hey, we're being really nice, benevolent employers, and we're giving you this thing that nobody wants.
Yes, exactly. Because ultimately, you want these policies to attract and retain people. that's what B Corp does for a lot of our employees. It opens the door for them considering to come work for us, and they feel part of something bigger than themselves and values aligned, and they want to stick around.
Nice. It's great. Like I say, I hear this anecdotally all the time when I'm interviewing people, and I actually feel there's more credence on the anecdotal evidence of you saying that than some 10-page report that's been issued by some big consulting company to say, yes, B Corp will increase your talent attraction rate by 5% or 10%, whatever it is. It's like hearing it from the ground. People go, no, we're genuinely saying that. I think is actually of more credence. So in general, like, how does B Corp, how is it working for you? Like, it's obviously I think you're quite pro B Corp. You think it's not been a burden for you, because some people, I think there might be other people in the legal compliance space who just go, oh, this is just an extra level of compliance, or this is just going to be hard. It's going to be more paperwork. It's going to be a distraction. But you clearly see the benefits. Beyond it being a framework to think about how you do more good. What other ways would you say, like if there's another listed company listening and they're kind of thinking about B Corp, or there's another, Oboz who's sitting there thinking, or thinking, oh yeah, maybe B Corp, but it sounds like a lot of work. What would you say are the sort of the overall benefits that you see from your position?
There are many. There's and it really depends on your stakeholder group that you're thinking about. We've touched on the employees, that the sort of attraction, retention, engagement, I think, which is an important thing that we should talk about more. How do we make sure our people feel really happy coming to work and satisfied? And I think in a sort of environment where people are looking for more than just the paycheck, they want to come to work to feel part of something, that being a B Corp really helps deliver and support that culture of, we're here for something more than just showing up and responding to emails. I think that it means a lot in a customer space, and it has the potential to mean so much more. So probably one of my key focuses is how can we drive more awareness, because awareness helps drive understanding, which helps drive more recognition for B Corp, and just helps keep increasing its power and its credibility. For our customers, they really want to understand that they're buying products that have consideration for people and planet. They want to know that the materials that are in the products are sustainable and responsible, and the workers in the supply chain have been well treated and have are respected, their rights are respected. And that's what B Corp shows. It shows that businesses looked holistically across all of these things, and that a customer can make a really good purchase decision when it sees the B logo. It helps open doorways for wholesale customer conversations. It means a lot to our European team. So the awareness of B Corp is fairly high in Europe, more so than in Australia and New Zealand. And it helps our sales teams go out and try and create new relationships with wholesale doorways. We see it as important in the regulatory space as well, and keeping us ready for the change to come as things keep evolving. The changes that have come with climate reporting here in New Zealand are not quite as hard, because we've put in a foundation of work leading up to it. That means that we can achieve this without it being a big dramatic shift, and the B Corp helps with that, because it just sets you up to be ready. Investors and shareholders, it means we've got some investors who are with us, because we're a B Corp. It means quite a lot to them that is where their investment is going. So I think it's got also a good lens on risk assessment. You've looked across a lot of parts of your business. You've had to open up the lid and look underneath, and someone else has come in and tested you on it. You're verified as to whether you actually do what you say you're doing. So it delivers huge value across so many different aspects.
Nice. Yeah, you kind of like de-risk the investment, I guess, because you're like, we as well as being listed and having a level of transparency there, we've gone to the next level of transparency,
Yes.
and there's you can't hide anything. So that's really cool to hear that it helps. It's a tool that will help you meet regulation. It's not a burden. It's not a secondary. And like you say, if you're maybe not as advanced on this journey of doing good and impact and sustainability as a KMD brands, actually it could. I firmly preach this. It's like it's a framework. Connect to the framework. The assessment is free to go and have a look at. It might just help you answer some questions that you've got rattling around your head, or give you the tool to be able to think, oh, okay, actually, if we had a policy that would actually meet that regulatory requirement. Oh, we hadn't thought about that. So yeah, I just think it's like the most amazing free tool. It's basically a free materiality assessment for your business to start at.
It helps you figure out where to start as well.
100%.
For businesses just trying to get going with an ESG strategy, it's a good point of reference for, well, where do we begin?
Yeah. And the UK stuff, like there's almost 2,500 B Corps in the UK. So that's why we're seeing a large number of customer facing brands, like I say, food and beverage, apparel, health and beauty. If you're a Kiwi or Aussie based brand looking to get into that Northern European, particularly UK market, more than likely your local in-country competitor will be a B Corp. So it's no longer table stakes. Sorry, it's no longer like an advantage or a differentiator. It's probably going to be table stakes. And that's, I think it's about 40% of the B Corp community globally is in the consumer brand sector. And I think that's just becoming a more sort of self-perpetuating thing that, there's so many that if you're not, you're going to be left out. It was also quite cool. I interviewed Andrew Garnsworthy from 99 Bikes as part of the virtual summit last week, and I sort of asked him, why B Corp? Like, how did you discover B Corp? And he said it was Kathmandu. He said it was really cool to see, and I thought for me that was really cool because quite often, like the retail, there are. I'm going to say the P word again. Sorry, Patagonia. Like it's because they've been a B Corp for so long, and it's a globally recognized brand. That is typically a brand that people say, I saw them and they've always influenced me. But this is what it's really cool. It's like, no, actually now people say, no, it's Kathmandu that influenced me. And you should feed that back to the team because like Andrew, he literally said it was inspiring to see, a retail brand in the apparel sector, selling clothing and equipment who had done it. And he's like, well, if they can do it, why can't we do it? And so that's just so cool.
That's exactly it though, because all businesses can do that if they put in the work to achieve it. It's that's what the movement is about. The more businesses that can do it, the more momentum we get.
100%. Like I say, for me, it's because people go, what? I'm not sure we're good enough to be a B Corp. It's like, if you've got the mindset and the intent that you want to be a B Corp, you will become a B Corp because you will make the change that you need to do to meet the requirements, because you will go on the journey of improvement. But if you're kind of like, Frances said it's really good for marketing and talent, let's just do it for that reason, it's going to be, like I say, there's I've interviewed so many people recently, but there are some B Corps. That was it, Jen from Cheekbone Beauty in Toronto. Absolutely just living, breathing purpose and impact. It's like you just know that if you scratch the surface of her organization, it is not a veneer of purpose and like we're trying to sell cosmetics and we're trying to look trendy and be cool. We're a B Corp. It's like you cut her company in half. It is just B Corp all the way through. And it's like you can really tell the brands that have that, rather than, well, yeah, we're kind of vaguely committed, but if we got really pushed or tested, we'd probably drop this thing really quickly. And I think you guys are clearly a brand that has that as well. And it's those are the brand, you are the influencer brands who then people attach to, because and I think this is the interesting thing. It's like, yes, you can do materiality and run reports and go, yes, talent retention is X%, but you cannot measure the energy and the vibe that the brand emanates based on the good and how, like, that level of purpose. And I don't think you ever should try and measure it, but the little ripple effects that you're having, you'll never know, other than some random bloke.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I love hearing that. Love hearing that. Those anecdotes, though, to just know that that it is getting out there and it is working and it is worthwhile. Because the more we talk about it, the more we actually are showing why our brands are differentiated from others in the market, that it's a very competitive space out there, but there is something about us that is different, is special, and there's a lot of work that goes into behind the scenes to make our products both technical, innovative, but there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of consideration, and impact on people and planet is a key part of how we actually operate as a business.
Nice. So obviously you were part of the journey to B Corp at KMD, or at Kathmandu as it was. So like, have you always been a purpose-driven person? Have you always been working for brands that were kind of doing good, and then obviously B Corp kind of met you, or as we sort of said on the pre-chat, were you working as some high-flying corporate lawyer who was suing charities for misleading marketing or something? There's probably some really. I was hanging out with a really cool lawyer yesterday, Deanne Brabant. She's a really just awesome lady. I don't know if you know her through the legal profession. She's a health and safety litigation expert. But it's like you're the same. Like, you're both way too cool to be lawyers.
Thanks.
It's like, had you always been into like law as a force for good, or what was your sort of background?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think I've come through corporate advisory roles, so various corporate advisory teams and private practice, servicing a range of different clients for about 12 years before I came across to an in-house role at KMD, and it was really the opportunity then to come and try something different. I knew the Kathmandu brand, and I thought, great, here's a chance to try something new, a different way of using my skills in a business, rather than you sort of tap in and tap out. When you're an external provider, you get to know a little bit of the picture of what makes a business tick rather than the whole thing. But I very much joined as a legal counsel role, and really it's just that I've been 8 years with the business, that's evolved dramatically with the growth of the group, from just Kathmandu to the wider KMD Brands, and needing different challenges, different skill sets, different roles that have popped up, and my portfolio has grown over that time. So I think yes, I've always been purpose driven, not probably in career. I'm choosing a legal path, but from family values and sort of how I was raised, I was always connected in local community, and really for me the purpose driven aspect is about that holistic thinking and thinking about long-term outcomes, which even as a lawyer, you're often, what you're trying to do is solve problems. You're trying to safeguard the business, and you're trying to make the best decision for the long term, and that's where the sort of opportunity to take on ESG as well as legal was really exciting to me, because it's helping the business make best long-term decision making. So I think it's always been kind of part and a good fit for me. It's not been a traditional path by any sense, but it's been a great challenge.
Nice. Yeah, because there's some, I know, like Jen, who I interviewed recently, should be coming out before this episode, so hopefully this will make sense to people tuning in. Like she had like a really cool story. She literally was woken by a dream where she's of indigenous sort of Canadian Indian American descent, and she had these three little Indian girls basically wake her up and tell her to start a cosmetics company. Like literally she was transformed into a whole industry she knew nothing about. So it's just really interesting to see, because I think there are some people who've kind of been into doing good all their life, and that someone like yourself, like you obviously had really good parents, raised you well. There are other people like me who were dragged up, who, I was on a very much corporate journey. It was all about making money, and I had a big existential moment that led me to go, why am I doing this? Like, this doesn't work for people or planet. And I think it is binary. I don't think there's any people kind of in the middle, but I think it's just refreshing to people here that you can change track, but equally, if you kind of got a history of doing good, keep pursuing that and work out maybe where that could lead you. Like it's clearly led you to a position that you absolutely love, and you're making a ton of impact, and you're having a great old time. So
it's been interesting. It's just been the when the opportunities are there presented, just grab them and take them. And I think sometimes that just the world finds a way of aligning where you need to be with what suits your skills and your values. So I wish I had a more exciting story of being woken with sort of an epiphany, but it's more just been about a natural evolution for me.
Nice. Careful what you wish for, because early midlife crises, they sound fun, but it was a challenging few years. But we're here now, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
It was it was an interesting journey. There's again, just riffing off this conference yesterday, James Laughlin, I don't know if you've come across him. He's an international keynote speaker based here in Christchurch, and he says you need to be a possibilitarian, like look for the opportunity. And I totally agree. I'm trying to teach my daughter this. She recently lost a school cardigan, and she'd lost one maybe 2 months before, so it was like the second one that we'd had to buy. So my wife was a little bit distraught that she'd lost the second $120 cardigan. And I was like, no, just keep looking for it. Like she's also got this small puppy dog toy that she had like since a baby, and she still got it. And it's like this tiny little small dog toy, which is the easiest thing to lose. And it's been lost so many times. But I say to her, look, we just got to keep looking. It will turn up. And I just said to her, like, keep your eyes open, keep looking. It will turn up. So I call myself the puppy hunter, because normally I'm the one who will find it. And this one time, it had been left. I think we'd been camping in the living room during lockdowns or something ridiculous. And Puppy had been lost in the bottom of a sleeping bag that was in the garage. And I'm like, let's just keep looking. And I was like, let's just open the sleeping bags. And everyone's like, don't be ridiculous. He's not going to be a sleeping bag. First sleeping bag, Puppy drops out, and it's like, right, can we just acknowledge that if you just keep looking, you will find the stuff that you're looking for? And for me, I just keep using that as like a metaphor for life. It's like, just what would the puppy hunter do? Just keep looking for the possibility, and it will turn up. So there you go. Puppy hunter wisdom dropping on the podcast.
Good words of wisdom there.
People are like, we thought Tim had lost it. We now know that he actually has lost it. Live with Francis. He's gone mental. Cool. So what's the future hold? Are there any cool and exciting legal compliance ESG things dropping from the KMD brands that you can let us, or is it all top secret? If you told us, we'd have to delete the podcast.
I don't think normally cool and legal and compliance go together, but I'll try and make it cool.
Come on, you are the coolest legal compliance person in the world. I mean, you have to be, because I was just thinking, like, how many jobs are there actually like yours in the world? Like, there can be no more than 50, 100 brands at the scale of KMD that would have in-house legal counsel. And then the ones that are a B Corp, you can probably count on both hands. So it
can be a lonely place at times. But, look, what's on the radar for us is we're working towards our next recertification. So we're due to recertify later this year, early next year. So that the journey continues. We've there's not a lot of time for pause in between. You've got to start thinking about what's next and what's the planning. Yeah, like what are we going to do this time around, and what's changed, and how's that going to show up differently for us this time around. So that's quite a bit of focus. Obviously, materiality assessment we've got coming up, and we're here in New Zealand working on our second year of our climate disclosures. So work on our transition plan, which is it's exciting because it's a different kind of conversation. So thinking about how our business strategy needs to change in the future to address the impacts of climate change. It's really interesting to be able to have those conversations internally with teams and challenge them to think in a different way, because usually we think maybe 5 years ahead at the most. We don't think about what's happening in 50 years, but that's what the regulation is actually driving us to do. But it's interesting because it just makes people think about different aspects, different potential consequences, and people are quite interested in doing that. So it's cool. Take them out of their normal what's right in front of you day to day into a big picture thinking at scale of what the future could look like for our group. So interesting and challenging, obviously.
Nice. And I think that's the big thing, the B Corp community is still pretty niche. I say this all the time. New Zealand stats would mimic global stats. We're at about 0.0, on the research that I've been able to do and find, about 0.01% of all global limited companies are currently a certified B Corp. And so companies like yours, particularly yours at the scale you're at with the 4 different companies, it's like you really are blazing a trail. It's like no one's done this before, so we have to sit here and work this out. And I think, yes, I mean, I'm a small business owner. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in our family life at the minute with various, things going on in and around the family. It's like there's not that many dull moments. But being part of this movement where it's like, well, no one actually knows what the answer is, and we get to experiment and try things and be curious. And I think that, again, there's an added element of that energy and vibe that's going on in these companies that you can't, like I say, you can't bottle it and go, here it is, put it into your company. It is just this general vibe of, we want to be better, we want to do as much good as we can, and there's no playbook because no one's done it before. And so I think if you want a bit more excitement in your business, maybe B Corp's the B Corp's the way forward.
There you go.
Cool. Hey, look, it's been really cool to hang out and get to know you a bit more. And you've got a very cool and exciting job, I think. Maybe you just need a different title. Maybe you need like chief legal at ESG. Does sound a little bit kind of, I don't know, mundane. So maybe we need to come up. Maybe we can get people to comment with like what could be the most exciting title for Frances to have.
That'd be great. Submissions welcome.
Hey, no, it's been really cool. So, and appreciate you taking time out of what must be, I can only imagine what your calendar looks like on the day to day. Just meeting, policy review, compliance, chat. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the time. It's been really great to have a chat, and really interesting to talk about everything in our world.
Brilliant. Catch you later.
Thanks. See ya.
Right, here we go. I'm now still struggling with the tech. Let me remove Frances from the stage. There we go. It's all about me. Hey, look, thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode. Again, like seriously, if you have not been inspired by this conversation to even have a think about looking about B Corp, well, A, you're listening to the wrong podcast, and B, you've obviously got rocks in your head. If you want to learn more about B Corp, I might know a guy who can help you. There's going to be a ton of resources. There'll be some links around this podcast. Growgood.co. If you can't find me on the internet is broken. But yeah, reach out, say good day. I'm more than happy to help you see if B Corp is the right journey for you to go on. Until next time, we'll catch you later. See ya. Hey, it's Tim here, that B Corp bloke from Grow Good. If you want more content on purpose, B Corp, how to do more good in the world as an individual or a business, then you know the drill. Hit the like and subscribe. Check out some of our other videos. They're probably floating around here somewhere. You know how it works. Thank you so much. See you next time.